Welcome to Beer, Bourbon, and Games. I am your host, Chris, and today on the channel we have another special episode for you. We are going to travel to Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, and we are going to sit down with the head brewer and owner of Moo-Duck Brewery, Mike Brubaker. We get to spend a little bit of time learning about his processes, learning about what he likes and doesn't like, and just have a good old chat with a really awesome, community-focused brewer. He is great. The brewery is great. So hopefully you'll grab a beer, you'll sit back and enjoy the interview.
Okay, so my name is Mike Brubaker. I am one of the owners, one of the founders, and the one and only brewer here at Moo-Duck Brewery.
No assistant brewers, no staff.
I have some helpers and some staff that certainly spend some time in the brew house, but mostly I'm a one-man team back there.
Do you find yourself overwhelmed with that, or?
Not yet. We're at the capacity now where we're starting to push that limit of maybe needing to have somebody back there, but I'm also a little stubborn and want to continue to be the brewer. So
You make all the decisions, not everyone in the way.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's your brew capacity? What's the tank size that you brew with?
So we have two different brew systems. Our original is really small. It's an original 1.5 barrel system that we actually built by hand. And we still use that system at least once a week. So we have 12 taps, and we're always trying to keep those taps in rotation and keep them fresh. So if we were brewing in a bigger capacity that, you put 12 beers on, they stay on for a month or two, where being in the 1.5 barrel system, you go through beers pretty quick, and that allows always new things to be coming on.
You don't get too much out of that.
Yeah.
Was it like 30 gallons?
We get closer to 40 out of that.
Okay.
But yeah, 35 to 40 depending on what kind of beer we're making. But we also have a 5-barrel system, so that allows us to get some of the year-round flagship beers through on that, and some of the seasonal stuff that we know is going to be more popular that we want to keep around for more than a couple weeks. We brew on that system. So all told, we brew probably around anywhere from 7 or 8 barrels per week of beer.
Okay. So you're doing probably, 2 brew sessions?
I brew at least Monday and Tuesday. So
Okay.
at least one brew day on the small system, at least one brew day on the big system, and then many times I'm also brewing Wednesday back in the small system again.
The small one that you have, the 1.5 barrel, is that what you primarily use for your small batch series that you have here?
Yeah, so we do definitely some kind of R&D recipe development through that system. We'll do some fun things with, we have a hop twin series where we pick 2 different hops to see what kind of combinations we come up with. And, 1 or 2 of those are probably going to become named beers, not in that series because we like them good enough. And some of them are like, we thought they were okay, but maybe not worth revisiting again. But that system does allow us to do a whole bunch of that stuff. And then we also every Friday release just what we call small batches, and those are like really small batches. So we'll take a 6th one, just doctor it up some way, whether it's just opening a tank, getting 5 gallons out, and dry hopping an IPA differently than the rest of the batch is dry hopped, or if we take a porter that's a chocolate porter, like maybe we'll put coconut in it as well, and things like that. So it allows us some more fun beers to come through the system without having to officially brew them in a separate system.
How many beers have actually turned from small batch into everyday ones?
There have been a few. I don't know how many specifically, but there certainly have been a few that we liked enough that we said, yeah, this needs to be scaled up. Okay. So it'll go from that 5 gallon, just fun little thing to try, into the 1.5 barrel, and I don't know if any have made it to the full 5 barrel production yet, but
okay. Any that they were god awful?
Oh, yeah, there's been a few.
No.
There's been a few that go into the buckets that never make it into the kegs to serve. There's been a couple that we serve that I'm like, you know what, I don't like it, but let's just see what everybody else thinks. And sometimes my suspicions were right, and sometimes something that I don't like doesn't mean that you're not going to like it or whatever. So there's some that I thought this is awful, and some of our quickest selling Friday batches. One of the ones that sells out in like an hour or two. You just never know.
It's no hard seltzer, but
never will be hard seltzer.
Thank God. How did the brewery get started? How did you go from, I'm assuming, home brewing?
Yeah, so I had a home brewing background first, and I guess that's a pretty common story these days, especially with these small breweries like us. But officially we started in 2014. We just had our 5-year anniversary this fall. So the brewery as itself as an entity is, well, technically 6 years because we had a year as an LLC where we're building the brewery and doing the renovations and all that stuff. But officially we opened to the public in November 1st of 2014. Now, of course, I didn't just open up and start brewing here. You know, I have 7 or 8 years of home brewing experience. All started when my wife got me a birthday present. And I always joke to this day, I don't know if she thinks that's the best birthday present she ever given me, or maybe one of the worst presents she's ever given me. But and it quickly escalated. It went from brewing, you know, once a month with an extract kit to designing my own recipes 3 or 4 times a week by the end of it. But,
Was it one of the ones you get made fun of? Was it a Mr. Beer?
I never did the Mr. Beer, actually. Yeah, no, I graduated into like the Brewer's Best kit or whatever it is that you get at your local brewer store. So luckily I didn't start with such a bad experience in the Mr. Beer. But first beer I made was a pale ale kit from the homebrew shop, and I thought it was great. I thought it was drinkable, and you know, it's one of the if that first batch would have sucked, which you hear a lot of people say about the first batch was awful, but I kept at it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I thought the first batch was pretty drinkable. You know, maybe it's because I made it. I don't know what it was, but it certainly hooked me. And you know, you go from being casual about it to being really serious about it to when you're entering competitions, and you know, I was doing really well in every competition that I ever entered as a home brewer. So that kind of made me think, you know, maybe it's time to, you know, I was already doing it, you know, all weekend long. I'd also, you know, see if I can make a business out of it, which everything's been going great. So I guess it was the right decision.
So that was the tipping point. You're like, everyone's telling me.
You know, as family and friends, they're always going to say, "Oh, your beer's great," because they want the free beer.
Yes, no free beer.
You know, but when I started entering the competitions and the non-biased judges were confirming everything that I kind of already had a feeling, you know, I was making good beer, and when they confirmed, you know, I was winning awards and stuff, then you're like, you know, maybe this is time. And at that time, Elizabethtown didn't have any breweries, and I was living here for about 10 years, so I wanted to, you know, what I consider now to be my hometown. I wanted to be, you know, bring something cool, because everybody says, you know, oh, there's nothing to do in town, you know, blah blah blah. I wanted to, you know, be the first person to bring something that would be fun to the local community.
How many have opened up since? I know there's.
Okay, so we have 3 technically now.
Okay.
There's ourselves as the elder statesmen. Maybe about half year after us, Cox Brewing opened up.
Okay.
And I guess they're technically maybe not Elizabethtown. They call themselves Reams, but
yeah.
Reams and E-Town are basically, I mean, I guess Reams might be a suburb of E-Town. I don't know what you consider it, but they're certainly on the outskirts of E-Town, but I consider them to be in E-Town. They're opening up a tap room in E-Town now as well.
Yeah, right down the road near
cool.
the Black Griffin, I think.
Yep,
right?
yep. And then Funk Brewing has a tap room in town as well. So they do most of their production up at the Emmaus, you know, production facility, but they do have a tap room here or there. They have a brewing system installed. I don't know if they're actually brewing on it yet, but even with that system installed, most of their beer is still going to come from the main production brewery. But they have a pretty cool little downtown tap room spot here as well.
I've been to it for a few times. I like it. Nice little foodie, little satellite area.
Yep.
I like the license because it gives people the ability to.
It is nice that you can open up those satellite spots and do that. So one of their owners is actually from E-Town as well, which is why their connection to E-Town is so.
Did you ever have any plans to open up a satellite or stay here?
We're still focusing on growing this location. So just this year we added 20 additional seats to the tap room, which is actually where we're sitting in now, is the expansion of the tap room. Literally just today we got another, you know, 5-barrel tank online now. So we're continuing to add tank space. We're continuing to add, you know, we have the ability to add more tanks and more space, and eventually maybe even phase out the 1.5 barrel and brew more than just the 5-barrel. But so we're still in growth phase here. So for us, being in a growth phase at our first location yet, there's not really that much of an excitement to branch out to a second location just yet. But with that being said, you know, as a business person, besides being the brewer, you know, being an owner and having those responsibilities, you know, if the right opportunity presented itself, you know, we would perhaps consider it. But we're not actively looking for a second location.
I figured, because one of the big things is that you guys are always here. And
yeah, we want to maintain that. We think it's important for us to continue to have owner presence. Now, we've certainly grown. You know, our first year would have been only owners pouring you a beer, as we did literally everything at that point. You know, we've grown where we have employees now. We have, you know, beer tenders, so to speak, you know, and we have people who work in the kitchen, work in the front of the house, and we've certainly grown leaps and bounds by those things. But we still maintain, you know, either my presence and or my wife, you know, the principal owner's presence here at the brewery. We think that's important, especially me as the brewer, because people always, our beer tender is pretty good. They can answer a lot of questions, but a lot of times people want to meet the brewer. A lot of times they have maybe more advanced questions than what the taproom staff can handle, and then that's where I can join in.
I think that's the one big part about craft beer. it feels a lot more community focused, a lot more with that customer. Because even if you go to Victory, they're still craft, but
Right.
they're so large, you don't see any of those people, and you have a good presence.
Yeah, I think that's why these small tap rooms like ourselves are so cool. You know, we don't have any growth plans to be, you know, big production brewery. You're not going to see us in cans all over the place. You're not going to see us branching out. Our tap rooms are going to be our main focus and continue to be our main focus, mostly because of what you just said. It's such a good community place. You know, some people would describe this as like a coffee shop that happens to serve beer, you know, and that's pretty accurate. You know, people come here, you know, you meet other people here, you talk and you have a nice time, and, you know, that's what we're striving to be. It's not being the next big, you know, hype brewery in the area, you know.
That is important. You said community. The one big part about your website is basically no TVs. That's not going to happen. It forces people to sit down and talk and actually meet other people, which is nice. It does sting in one aspect because I want to come here and watch football or whatever's on.
I will say, as a football fan, that is the one time it stings me a little bit too. You know, I'd love to sit here on Saturday afternoon when I'm here watching a, you know, Penn State game or something. You know, or well, usually Sundays I'm not here, but Sunday being able to put on an Eagles game or something. You know, that would be good. But you know, I think the conversation aspect of it, I think, outweighs the sitting and watching the football game aspect of it. But the first year, I will say, that was maybe difficult. We had a lot of questions from some people who wanted to support us. They said, well, where are the TVs? But at this point, it's become more of a tagline for us, and one of the things we're kind of promoting ourselves as is the place that doesn't have TVs. And that really works for us. You know, even our membership club T-shirts on the back even says, you know, our tagline, no TVs, conversation welcome. So we're really kind of pushing that and really making that our focus, because it does differentiate us from the Funk Tap Room downtown, or I don't know what Cox's plans are out in their new tap room, but you know, it does differentiate us a little bit.
Which is nice. It feels more like the British style.
Yeah, it's a pub. You know, it's you sit and you talk to your friends, and you make the new friend with the guy sitting next to you that you didn't know before you came, and that's equally as cool.
Every single time I come in here, I do see people just randomly talking. I had some guy talking to me when I was in for your what was it, the barrel event? What was
the Wood Fest. Yeah,
the Wood Fest. Yeah. People were talking to me. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but right now we're friends. Right? So it does work. You know?
It does work, and it's one of the surprising things. You know, I'd like to say I had all these grandiose ideas in my business plan before we opened. When I look back at it, it's funny to look at the original business plan, but it does work. There's one of the things that surprised me the most is how many people meet here and are now like, these are their primary friends that they have now. Yeah. You know, they didn't know each other 4 or 5 years ago, but now, you know, when they're doing stuff away from the brewery, it's with this same core group of friends. And even ourselves, we've become friends with, you know, a lot of the regular customers, and, you know, we're now taking vacations with some of them and things like that. And, you know, you never expect these things to happen, but it's kind of cool side effect of building a nice community place like we have. I'll say one of the things is with our kind of goofy and comical name and stuff, it does bring people in to say, I wonder what this place is all about. I got to check that out. You know, what is this Moo-Duck thing, you know, all about? So we do draw people in, certainly on Saturdays and Sundays. You know, people who are traveling and want to check out breweries and stuff. So we do get a good bit of you know, customers from that side of it as well. Kind of my wife and I's background is you know, if we weren't beer makers, we'd be naturalists, and we certainly spent some time. We actually met at a naturalist camp, and I was the director of education for a camp where, you know, school kids would come and take environmental programs with us and stuff. So, you know, we certainly have kind of a nature and environmental science background to us, and that continues to be our hobbies. And one of my big hobbies, other than, you know, the beer side of things, is bird watching.
Okay.
And so the name actually goes back to a bird watching team I had. So I was the captain of a team called the Team Moo-Duck. And when we were creating the team, we were entering an event called the World Series of Birding. I know that sounds really bizarre to people who don't watch birds.
I didn't know there was
but basically, it's a fancy name for a 24-hour bird marathon of sorts, where it takes place in New Jersey. And literally, you have the whole state as your kind of playing field.
Okay.
And it's more of a fundraiser than an actual serious event. So we were actually entering a team to raise money for the nature center that I was working at the time.
Okay.
It's almost like a bowl-a-thon or a walk-a-thon or anything like that. So you get people to pledge, we'll give you 10 cents for every bird species you can find for the day or something like that. It just happens to be run by the New Jersey Audubon Society. So we were entering this event and we needed a team name, and at the time we happened to have a Russian intern who was a member of the team as well, and he was always calling our group of birding friends Moo-Ducks. So being kind of nonconformist and young in our 20s, and if you looked at all the other team names, they were generic, like the Falcons or the Eagles or the Sandpipers or just regular bird names. So we wanted to pick a name that made people think, well, who are these young kids and what are they doing here in this World Series thing? So we were the Peak Moo-Ducks, Peak standing for the Pocono Environmental Education Center, which is where I was working at the time. So for anybody who has a friend who may speak Russian or no Russian, Moo-Duck is a Russian slang word, we'll say.
Okay. Is it a family appropriate word?
We could make it, I guess, family appropriate interpretation would be maybe like a D-bag or a douchebag or something like that.
So you open up a brewery of D-bags.
Which is funny because it's totally not our personalities at all as here, but we wanted, for that team it was the same thing. We wanted kind of a funny name that just made people think, what the heck is this all about? And that name just kind of stuck with that particular group of friends. And when I started home brewing, I named my home brewery Moo-Duck just because I wanted to continue that tradition with that group of friends and stuff. And when we were looking to open here, we said we're just going to stick with the whole Moo-Duck thing because we knew we could make the cool duck cow logo and again, it would make people want to visit just because they want to see what the heck that's kind of all about. So it stuck. It works. People like it.
It is what got me to get interested in this brewery when I was looking around, because we were touring all over the different places. We were up in Trogs, and we're like, well, what's around here? We're like, wife's like, Moo-Ducks here. I'm like, what is Moo-Duck?
Exactly right.
And they're like, we stopped in and ended up really enjoying it. It's a nice little cozy place.
It is cozy. It's a great way to describe it, actually.
Yeah, I like it's the dim lights, kind of the coffee environment that you talked about. It was really nice. At that point, the first time we came, you hadn't expanded yet, so it was a little
even smaller,
tighter, but it was still really nice, really good food, and beer. I think I wanted to try as many as you had, so that day I ordered.
You did the flight of everything?
Yeah, I did a flight of everything and went hardcore and brought home a Hoppy Toad for.
Nice. So Hoppy Toad's been our flagship IPA from the start. Now that beer has drastically changed, as the course of beer drinking has changed. 5 years doesn't sound like a long time, but IPAs of now are vastly different than IPAs of 5 years ago. So when we opened, that beer was a Cascade Centennial IPA and was real piney, West Coasty, and now it's gradually morphed into a Citra and Chinook IPA. And I don't know if they can see it from the picture, but it's not hazy per se, but it's got some haze to it. It's not a New England style per se, but it's definitely not clear either. So it's kind of morphed into this weird. We just discussed this with the Beer Busters podcast. Maybe it's like a Midwest IPA because it's not quite West Coast, it's not quite East Coast. It's somewhere in the middle, but we're really happy with what that beer's developed into and where it's at right now. I
always describe them as East meets West, just because you do have those two. I know Chinook is a really big one. I love that one. New England is a big thing, but even like you said a couple of years ago, it's changed. Everything was all about really high IBUs. Everyone wanted things super bitter.
You wanted more bitter the better back then. Yeah, it's funny because when we were talking, in our first year open, we always had the Hoppy Toad on, and we opened with only 6 taps. Now we're up to 12 now, maybe with some luck expanding into 15 soon. But when we started thinking about maybe we'll introduce a year-round double IPA, because at the time people wanted the big aggressive West Coast DIPA, and we released a beer in February after we opened called Big Brew, which happens to be named after one of our owners and my brother. Whose nickname is Brew. It's not even a nickname anymore, it's really his name. There's nobody who calls him by John, which is his real name. He's just Brew to everybody. So we was making Big Brew as kind of his birthday present in February every year, and we continue to release it every February. But the first time we released Big Brew, which is a Centennial Cascade Nugget, just super dang bitter West Coast IPA. And I still love it. And if you look back at the original pictures, it was like basically a red IPA in color.
Sounds so resonant.
And it was awesome, And when we first released that, it was only intended to be a one-time release for my brother's birthday, and it ended up being like, we released it once, it sold out so quick. I made it again, it sold out real quick, and we were considering adding that as like our one of our new flagships. And then just when we were getting ready to do that, all of a sudden the kind of New England thing was starting to take hold. And I'll still release that big brew, it'll still sell really quick. We're lucky in that respect that people aren't coming here only looking for New England IPA. So actually, I'm due to brew that beer probably this week again, but for a February release. But even that's changed a little bit. We started adding a little Citra Mosaic into that Centennial and Cascade now. So
those are two of my favorite. I love
the
smell of that.
Mosaic's probably my single favorite hop. We use that probably in things more than anything, including our year-round pale ale with it, which we call it pale ale, but it's a 5% session IPA in reality. Like it's more bitter and has more substantial flavor than pale ale does. But yeah, Mosaic's my favorite.
It's perfect aroma hop, and it does give some really good flavor too. You can use it either way, which is really nice.
Which is nice about it. It is definitely the hoppy toad. And even today, like, we're happy with that beer's at, but when you have a flagship IPA and you're the brewer, you kind of, or probably, at least I am always tinkering with it. It might be a subtle, maybe it's a couple ounces more hops this time than the last time, or maybe you're moving 5 minutes one way or the other with when you're adding the hop, So I'm always in constant tinkering, but it's been subtle enough through the time that people don't notice the changes.
But you notice it.
Oh, I definitely notice it. Yeah, each one is definitely a little different, a little tweak. We have a gentleman who comes in every Saturday afternoon who walks across the street from the Masonic Village retirement community. And he sits here, he has 2 hoppy toads and usually a hot dog, and reads a book every Saturday for a couple hours. And he has never said anything to me. Maybe he's noticing they're different, I don't know. But he's never said, like this round of hoppy toad was definitely different. But to answer your question, hoppy toad has technically changed the most, especially from beginning to end. But then even in the middle, like I said, I'm adding little changes here and there just to see what happens, basically. But the other reason is that's year-round beer too, so I'm brewing that a lot.
Yeah.
Where something like the Big Brew is only released once a year, so from year to year I might tweak Big Brew a little bit, but that's only going to get done 4 or 5 times since I've started. Where the hoppy toad I've probably brewed, I don't know, maybe 50 batches of hoppy toad since we opened.
Is there any beer that you have not messed around with at all since you started?
The Remedy, which is our flagship kind of light IPA or light beer, that hasn't changed at all. I've done 0 changes to that recipe since it was scaled up from the homebrew days. So that hasn't changed. Our Irish Red hasn't really changed.
So those are ones you've been brewing for quite a while, at least at homebrew days. So
yeah, the Remedy and the Purple Carp were two old homebrew recipes.
Are those the only ones that you've carried over?
No, so all of our flagships were original homebrews. All of them except for the Great 38. The Great 38 was an original homebrew, but the idea when we released the Great 38 was to have just a revolving series of single hopped pale ales. So when we made it the very first time here, I believe it was a Columbus hop pale ale. And then we tried a couple other variants, and then we did the Mosaic version. And once we did the Mosaic version, we never stopped doing the Mosaic version. So that pale ale is just a 5% all Mosaic hops. Real flavorful pale ale. But the other 4 were legit just homebrew recipes that got scaled up. Yeah, so there's 2 beers where we usually try to steer them from. In the year-round list, our Purple Carp is the closest thing. Like, for all of us who grew up around here, you probably started drinking New England lager at some point in your life, and that's the beer. Probably to this day, I probably drank the most of, just because of growing up around here. So that's our beer. If they say, I drink Yingling, usually, that's the beer we kind of steer towards. It's an ale, but it has kind of those kind of lager characteristics that Yingling has. There's no corn or anything like that in it, but it's usually it's a dark red beer that's kind of easy drinking. It's, I guess you would say, kind of non-offensive, non-aggressive, but kind of is a good introduction for people who are maybe new to it. And then the other thing we do is the Remedy. Even though the Remedy is kind of a weird beer, so that's got orange blossom honey in it. It's a wheat beer base, but not Hefeweizen wheat, just a straight up American wheat. And then it's got honey in it, and then it's got chamomile flowers. So even though it's kind of a little different, it's still got really nice subtle flavors that kind of fit somebody who's looking for something on the lighter side.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because I know a while ago, I went to the Liberty Tap House with one of my friends, and they have like 60 beers on tap. A whole bunch of weird craft stuff that you've never heard of, and their question was, what's Budweiser or Coors Light? So I'm sure that's a difficult thing when you make really good beers.
It's difficult, and some people come in, they don't realize, what a brewery is, and they expect you to have maybe, their friend told them, oh, this is a cool place, you should go check it out, and they don't realize that, well, everything that's on tap here is actually stuff that we made here.
Yeah.
And they expect to be able to get maybe a Miller Lite or something.
Yeah. Where's the guest tap?
Yeah. But one of the things we did, and we just installed it today, is we did get some better temperature control tank space that we're installing. So our goal is to have a year-round lager tap added to our round of taps. So maybe whether it be one of the 12 now or if we add taps, we're not sure yet. But having the ability to temperature control and make lagers year-round is something we're going to really. People keep saying this is going to be a trend in craft beer. The lager is coming back.
I hope.
Well, I really hope so. And we're going to do everything we can to help push that trend. But I would say we're also fortunate in the area that we are here that, whenever I make a lager, like it sells really quickly and people still enjoy to drink a beer that, just tastes like beer again.
That is a big point. I think people are slowly starting to get tired of the New England IPAs. There's only so many you can have. I do enjoy them. I like them a lot.
I enjoy them too.
But when some place has a Kolsch, a Pilsner, a lager, I will gravitate towards that and make sure I try it just to support them. Hey, I do like that too. That's, I think, the one reason why some people don't go to local breweries is because they look at the online menu and they've got 10 beers and 9 of them in IPA, and they don't like hops.
Yeah.
So
that's also one of the ways we've certainly differentiated ourselves. We have four at the most 5 of our 12 as being IPAs, and the other 7 or however many are left. We run all kinds of styles. I'm drinking a brown ale right now.
Yeah.
We have the Irish Red all the time. We have the chamomile beer. So we make sure that we strive to always have something. If somebody comes in here, we're going to be able to find them a beer that they're going to like.
Which is good. Yeah, I always look at your menu. You have stouts. You have all the
We still get people thanking us for having stouts on it. Like I can't believe that some people we have our flagship year-round Mistopheles all year-round. And this time of the year we have a couple stouts and maybe a quarter or two this time of the year just because. We had somebody even this week saying, "Thank God we came in and I had choices of dark beer." I wasn't just relegated to the maybe one that they have, if they even have one. No, I mean, my advice to homebrewers, and actually, my wife will make fun of me sometimes because I still enjoy the homebrewing process. I'm brewing on this bigger equipment now, and I certainly have more toys to play with now than I ever had. But I still like getting the 5-gallon buckets out and the 10-gallon cooler mash tun and brewing a batch. In fact, tomorrow I'm scheduled to meet up with a friend here and we're going to homebrew. So I still enjoy the creative side of the homebrewing and even though it's I enjoy brewing. So if it's a 5-gallon homebrew batch or a 150-gallon 5-barrel batch, it's the same to me. But my advice is always to keep it simple. A lot of times a homebrewer will bring in a recipe to me and they'll have 5 or 6 malts and 3 different hops and 2 or 3 different kinds of fruit in it. And I say, cut this. You don't need those. Just to keep it simple. Mm-hmm. And I found that even by brewing here. If I look at some of my original homebrew recipes, I changed them significantly here just to be more simple because simple is actually better. It's going to give you more clean flavors. And when you start adding too many things, all the different flavors, it just kind of get muddled together, and the overall product is going to be worse. So to keep it simple is my recommendation. You can do it as simple as having a pot on a stovetop and a plastic bucket, and you can make really good beer. I mean, you really can. If you brewers always joke, we're really paid janitors as much as anything, sanitation, workers, because, the cleaning and the sanitation side of things is a big and probably the most important part of what we do. So don't become a brewer unless you want to clean and sanitize things on a regular basis. But keep things clean, sanitized, and keep it simple, and you're going to be able to make good beer.
I'm assuming that keeps things more consistent too, when you don't have so much that could go wrong with all those ingredients.
Oh yeah, if you just, like I said, a pot on the stove and a bucket, and you do things at those temperatures and the right things, and you're gonna make good beer. We'll start with the least favorite because I don't know. It's hard to say. There's certainly beers that I brew here that I don't particularly like the beer itself, but I make it for a specific reason. Like, and we talked a little bit about this honey and chamomile beer. I couldn't tell you the last time I had a full draft of the Remedy. It's just not a beer that I particularly am fond of. I test it out of the tanks and then go through all the quality control things with it back in the brew house. But once it gets kegged, I just don't drink it. It's not a favorite of mine. I don't necessarily hate brewing it, So there's no style that I would necessarily say, in the brew house for whatever reason I hate brewing that style. There are certainly styles that I enjoy drinking more than others, and if I'm enjoying the final product in the tap room, I'm probably going to be enjoying brewing it more that day as well. So I certainly lean hoppy.
Okay.
I'm not a brewer who says, I can't stand it. All I have to do is make IPAs. I'll make IPAs all day. I don't mind making IPAs. But we talked a little bit about lagers. I'm excited to be able to, without the proper temperature control, which we haven't had up until this point. I was making lagers in the winter because the brew house is not heated or cooled. So in the winter, when it gets 50 degrees back in the brewery, I can start making some lagers. So right now we do have some lagers coming up, and those are always exciting for me to make. As you said, we just said I like simple things, and just doing a Vienna malt 1-hop lager is great to me. Like, so easy to drink, so easy to make. It's perfect. So. And then, like we just talked about, I do quite enjoy doing all the different Belgian styles and all the different little nuances of the Belgian beers. Yeah, that was something we wanted to do right from the start. As much has changed. If I look back at that original business plan, I could say, like, wow, we're not doing hardly any of this. So, the original ideas that we had. But that is one of the things we thought, if we're going to be seen as a valuable asset to the community, we want to support the community that's supporting us. So we talked a little bit about, we certainly get outside visitors, but we're very regular customer focused, and I think a lot of those regular customers happen to come from some of the things that we've supported. So it does help. It was coming from a giving side of it, but it perhaps has been a good business decision in the long run as well. But we thought if we're going to be seen as a valuable part of this community, that we wanted to give back to the community as much as we possibly could. So we started out with having a charity tap on tap at all times, and we still have a charity tap on tap at all times, where we give, every time it's poured, we give a percentage of the sales to that group. So we continue to do that. We've become big givers of the space. So every Monday night we have the Elizabethtown Rotary Club who has their meetings here. We don't charge them for the space. It's another way for us to give back. We sponsor all sorts of events throughout the town. People know now that if you need a sponsor for an event, we're probably going to sponsor it. The only things we tend to stay away from is, for some reason the E-Town school district keeps sending us stuff, and we don't see the value or the need, like, to have a mini found coming out. Like, we don't necessarily need to support the mini found. We don't feel because it might be the wrong,
Yeah.
So if it fits our mission, if it makes sense, we're going to support it as much as we can. And we think that's important. There's a higher cause than just owning a business, we feel, and we're going to continue to give back as much as we, if we have the money to do it, we're going to do it.
Good. You mentioned the community tap. I know Poor Man's does that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think they do a lot of stuff that you do, which is good. Like they use howler growlers. You guys brew together. You have home brewers that you help and nurture. So it is a good thing to see you guys giving back anyway.
It's important, and we have certainly become really good friends with those guys. And for me, when we opened up, we were, as far as I know, we're the only brewery who hand built their stuff, was using, we bought a lot of used equipment, and a lot of people start off with the fresh, new everything. And when I opened a business and we were doing it this way, it was pretty unique. And when Ryan and Sam were we think we want to open a brewery stage, and they came to us and had all these questions like, wow, this is pretty cool that somebody else thinks the way we did it is like the cool way to do it, the good way to do it, and wants to emulate the way we've done it. So from a brewer and a business owner's perspective, it was nice having people who are interested in what you've done, and learning the way you did it. And I've kind of taken those guys in as maybe my little brothers of sorts. I mean, I can brew anything I want, and if it doesn't sell, what's the point of brewing it? So you gotta look at the end all, be all thing is, you got to sell what your particular customers want. But that's the key there. You got to sell what your particular customer wants. Could I do a hard seltzer, and would it sell here? I have no idea. But I have not had a single person come in here and ask, do you have a hard seltzer? So until I get 10, 15 people saying, hey, is there a hard seltzer here? Then I'm not going to brew one. So because the end all is, you got to sell what sells. With that being said, I can still make a brown ale and sell it. So I'm going to continue to make brown ale and sell it. One of our quickest selling beers that I make every year is our Oktoberfest lager. So every year I'm going to have an Oktoberfest lager, and in fact, it started off, I did that as just a homebrew Friday small batch once, and then that's got scaled into 1.5 barrel. Now we're up into brewing a full 5 barrels with that every year, and it still sells out within a few weeks. So, we're going to continue to sell what sells the best here. Everybody says pumpkin beer is dead. I brew 5 barrels of pumpkin beer, and it sells within a month every year. So I'm going to continue to make pumpkin beer.
There's definitely an overexposure of pumpkin beers, but when you do find a good one, I'll drink it. There's so many that are just terrible, but I respect your regulars a lot more since they're not asking for hard seltzers.
Like I said, until we have people asking for it, I'm not going to sell it. I said it to Beer Busters that we would never make one. That's probably the wrong thing to say. Is if the trend continues where people start asking for them, we're certainly going to look at that. But I also think brewers have a responsibility as brewers is to make. We should be making beer. That's our thing. And some people are claiming that beer is not going to look like beer anymore in 10, 15, 20 years. And, that would be sad, I think, because I think beer in itself is still the best beverage, for my liking. So, will that happen? I hope not. But if it does happen, we got to adjust and make. But I think as a brewer, I think you can sell something that people don't know that they want. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't make it, of course they're not going to ever buy it. And it's certainly a lot easier when you're taproom focused like we are. I'm not going to say we can make a 20 barrels worth of brown ale and put it in cans and go sell it. But having a brown ale here on the taproom, it sells quite well. So, I think we got to give ourselves more credit to be able to make styles that aren't as cool, and they're still going to sell if you are able to talk them up.
Yeah, you can get people interested, and everything that's old is new again eventually. So everyone wanted super bitter, now they don't. They want juicy. Everyone wants seltzers now, but it'll go back to, I think it might be DuClaw makes a beer just called regular beer. It's just a white label that says a beer that tastes like beer. Right. And I'm sure that probably sells just for those people that go, well, I want to try it.
I like beer.
I like beer. And that's a good thing. So I think eventually it'll
it's certainly interesting. The whole pastry stout, the whole hard seltzer, the whole New England IPA. These are certainly all very flavorful offerings, and certainly beers that are interesting to people because they have so much flavor. But on the same side, I think just a well-made like a Vienna lager or a Pilsner is also equally as interesting and flavorful. If you get the right one made.
I 100% agree. I mean, I'll drink the stuff with lactose and all that different stuff, but at the end of the day, one of my favorite beers is just a local one up the street for me. It's a basic lager. It probably has 1 or 2 hops, and that's it. And it's very simple, but it tastes good. It's normal. So I think eventually it'll.
I hope so. I certainly hope so. And me as a drinker and as a brewer, like I'm not a big fan of sweet. Which is maybe unfortunate because it seems to be the sweeter the better these days. Like when I drink a stout that's pastry stout, and laced with a crap load of lactose, to me it's not very drinkable. And you have one and it has maybe really robust flavors, but then do you want the second one is the question. And to me that's what beer is. Beer is something that's meant to be drank. And I want to sit down and I want to have 2 or 3 beers. I don't want to just have a beer. So to drink, 2 or 3 pastry stouts that are 10, 13% and lactose ridden, no.
And that can alienate some people. Like
to have one, that's great.
Yeah, I liked one of them. I can have that. My one friend is lactose intolerant. I'm like, this is great beer. He's like, can't drink it. I'm lactose intolerant as well. I just power through it. I don't care. But if he even sniffs it, he's out. So. Makes good stuff, but the natural stuff is a lot more interesting to me.
One of the things we actually started doing recently, and was based on a customer request, is we had a really good customer of ours who comes in 2-3 times a week and spends a good amount of money on both food and beer a week start to drink wine. And I questioned her, what's with the wine these days? And she said, well, the doctor wants me to try to remove gluten as much as I can from my diet. And she's like, would you ever make a gluten-free beer? I was like, I have toyed around, especially in the homebrew days. And actually, when we first opened, we did have like a truly sorghum-based gluten-free beer on tap. But honestly, it's good for somebody who can't drink beer, but as a beer drinker, it was not a great beer. I'll be the first to admit.
I'm not a fan of this.
So we've actually started adding the Brewer's Clerics enzyme to every beer, which is, you can't claim it to be gluten-free, but you can say it's brewed to remove the gluten. So we started doing that just as a test for her. And we released, actually it was the Hoppy Toad IPA, it was the first beer that we did it in, and she came in one day and asked for a wine. I said, I got something better for you, and I poured her the Hoppy Toad, and she says, did you try it? I said, let's try it. So she drank 3 or 4 Hoppy Toads that night, and she came back the next day and she said, can I have a Hoppy Toad? So I said, all right, so we know it works for at least her. So we literally started doing it to every beer now, and we don't necessarily advertise it that much, but if somebody comes in and says, what do you have gluten-free? You know, we can at least explain to them is, well, every beer on tap that we have is brewed to at least reduce the gluten, remove the gluten. So the other important thing is it doesn't change the flavor at all. So for everybody who has enjoyed a Hoppy Toad for the last 5 years, you know, the Hoppy Toad still tastes the same now. It just has reduced gluten in it now.
It is important. A lot of people that do have celiacs or do the gluten-free, they hang out together. So if they've got even one friend, they have one friend, and if someone goes, well, where are we going? Well, we need to go somewhere that's gluten-reduced or gluten-free. They might not come here because they don't have anything for them. So advertising might not be a bad idea, but at the same time, there's probably people that are afraid it tastes different. But
yeah, we have one of our regular guys, why you remove my gluten from my beer? But you don't know any difference, you're just being a schmuck.
I want my gluten.
So our next big event is our summer ale party, which is crazy to think that we don't have anything else coming up more immediately into the spring season. But I don't know, we're always coming up with new things, so follow us on all the socials, and you know, we post on Facebook and Instagram all the time. So anytime we have something fun coming up, we'll definitely post it on those. So
did you do any trivia nights or anything?
We haven't yet, and I don't know, we've gotten some requests, but not a ton of requests of that yet. I'm not saying I'm anti-trivia, but I might be anti-trivia as well. We had to fight me to get even wine, you know, offered here, because I'm such a staunch for a brewery. You should come here and drink beer, but I can certainly see the value. We do have live music every Saturday, so that I had no problems with. So I don't know why I would have problems with trivia, but we don't do any trivia yet.
So for the people watching at home, what are your hours? And you said social media. What can they find you at?
So social media is the best. We actually just redid our website itself, which is really good now. It's much more current. So all of our events are on the actual website page now. All of our current tap lists are always updated on the website as well. So Moo-Duckbrewery.com, of course. And then Moo-Duck Brewery at Facebook, Moo-Duck Brewery on Instagram, both are updated regularly. So they're the best places to find us. We're open Wednesday through Sunday right now. Always 3 to 9 Monday. 3 to 9 on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. 12 to 9 on Saturday, and 12 to 5 on Sunday.
And is there anything else you'd like to tell anyone watching at home? This is your platform.
This is our platform.
This is it.
I think people have heard enough from me. You know, we're very happy with the progress we made. I think if you look at our beer from the first 6 months we were open to now, I think it's gotten 100 times better from then to now. You know, we might be expanding some taps soon, which would be fun. Look for some more lagers because we're going to have better temperature control. And yeah, if you want like a nice variety of beers to try, I think we're an awesome place to come. If you want to be able to sit down and have a conversation with somebody or meet new people, we're a pretty cool place to come. If you want some really nice live music on a Saturday evening where you don't have to stay out late, we have live music 5:30 to 8:30, which I think is also cool because, you know, I'm not getting young anymore. To go out at 10 or 11 o'clock to watch music is just not my thing. But if I go out at 5:30 and listen to some music, that sounds great, you know. So yeah, and I'll just say we're really proud of what we've accomplished. We're really proud of where we are, and we're going to continue to, you know, focus here in this tap room and see how far we can take it here before we maybe venture out and about elsewhere.
Hopefully you enjoyed the interview. I had such a good time sitting down with Mike. He is a very down-to-earth and wholesome person that is community-focused. And that brewery, I think the sky's the limit for them. They're doing everything right. They make great beer. They have great customers. And they have amazing food, too. The regulars are awesome there. And I love that they don't have TVs. It might sound like a turnoff to some, but it is a great place to meet some new people and just sit down and just have a great time while enjoying a brew. And if you've never been to Elizabethtown, hopefully you'll give a little drive out that way. It's not that far from a lot of places, and there's a lot of little breweries in that area that you can go to. There's Cox, there's Funk, and if you drive a little bit, there's a pretty big one in Trogs, not too far away. So it's a good little area for a little get together with friends. You can do a little road trip. You can do some bar crawls. So hopefully you guys get out to Elizabethtown and support an amazing brewery that supports the community like they do. So I appreciate everything, guys. And until next episode, I'll catch you back here.